The first time I said your name out loud, it didn't sound like a word anymore. It sounded like a promise my heart had been waiting to make. Before my lips ever learned your name, my heart had already been whispering it. It existed there first, soft and unsure, like a secret I wasn't brave enough to acknowledge. I didn't know then that love often begins this way, not with declarations, but with a quiet trembling inside, a feeling that doesn't ask permission before it settles in. Your name floated in my thoughts long before it dared to touch my voice. The first time I almost said it, I stopped myself. Not because I was afraid of the sound, but because I understood its power. Saying your name felt like crossing a line I could never return from. It felt like admitting something sacred, something fragile. My lips hesitated, holding back the truth my heart was already living. In that pause, I realized how deeply you had already become a part of me. When the whisper finally happened, it wasn't meant for anyone else. It wasn't spoken to the world, or even to you. It was meant for the silence around me. I said your name as if testing it, as if asking my soul whether it was ready to carry the weight of loving you. And in that moment, everything inside me answered without doubt. Your name didn't sound like a word. It sounded like warmth, like familiarity, like something I had been missing without ever knowing its shape. The whisper changed me. It turned curiosity into longing, and longing into something dangerously close to devotion. I noticed how carefully my lips shaped each sound, as if they already knew that this name deserved gentleness. After that, I caught myself repeating it in quiet moments, when the night was still, when the world was loud, when my thoughts needed refuge. Each whisper felt like a confession made to myself. Each repetition carved you deeper into my being. Your name became a bridge between what I felt and what I hadn't yet dared to admit. There is a kind of intimacy that exists only in that first whisper, when love is still new and unguarded, when the heart speaks before the mind can interfere, when a name becomes more than identity and turns into emotion, memory, and hope all at once. Love did not arrive all at once. It unfolded slowly, almost unnoticed, weaving itself into the spaces of my everyday life. At first, it was subtle, like a shift in the air that I couldn't explain. Ordinary moments began to feel different, as if they were waiting for something more, and I didn't realize until later that something was you. Love awakened quietly, without asking for attention, without demanding to be seen. I began to notice changes in myself before I noticed them in the world around me. Mornings felt lighter, even when nothing had changed. Songs sounded deeper, words felt heavier, and silence carried meaning. My thoughts kept returning to you, not forcefully, but naturally, like a habit my heart had formed on its own. Love doesn't announce itself, it settles in, rearranging everything gently. Simple moments transformed without effort. A passing smile reminded me of you. A random thought turned into a memory waiting to happen. Even loneliness felt different, no longer empty, but filled with anticipation. Love had awakened a part of me that had been dormant, teaching me how to feel more, how to pay attention, how to care without needing a reason. I found myself protecting your presence in my life, even when it existed only in my thoughts. I carried you through my days like a quiet promise, unseen but deeply felt. Love sharpened my senses. I listened more closely, felt more deeply, and understood emotions I once ignored. Every small interaction held potential, every pause carried meaning. There was a moment when I realized I was no longer the same person I used to be. Love had changed the way I looked at the world. It softened my edges, made me patient, made me hopeful. I began to believe in possibilities I once dismissed. Love awakened courage where fear had lived and replaced uncertainty with gentle faith. What surprised me most was how natural it all felt. There was no struggle, no resistance. Loving you felt like remembering something I had forgotten, like returning to a part of myself that had been waiting for the right moment to come alive. Love didn't demand perfection, it simply asked for honesty, presence, and trust. With every passing day, love continued to open my eyes wider, teaching me that the heart knows its truth long before the mind is ready to accept it, and in that awakening, I learned that loving you was not something I chose, but something that happened to me, quietly, completely, and undeniably. Your name became more than a way to call you. It transformed into a feeling that lived inside me, carrying weight, meaning, and emotion I never expected. Before you, a name was only a label, something spoken casually, easily forgotten. But yours settled into my heart and changed the way I understood words. It held presence, memory, and the quiet intensity of everything I felt for you. Every time I thought of you, your name appeared first, as if it were the doorway to every emotion that followed. Saying it felt personal, almost sacred. My lips learned its shape the way the heart learns love, slowly and with care. Each syllable carried warmth, and every repetition deepened its significance. It wasn't just a sound anymore, it was an experience. Your name carried different meanings depending on the moment. In joy, it sounded like laughter waiting to happen. In longing, it felt like a soft ache that lingered in the chest. In silence, it became comfort, something familiar to hold on to when words failed me. It adapted to my emotions, reflecting them back to me with quiet honesty. I noticed how carefully I spoke it, even when no one was listening. There was respect in the way my voice softened around it. It deserved tenderness, because it carried you with it. Even written, your name held power. Seeing it on a screen or on paper stirred feelings I couldn't fully explain, as if the letters themselves remembered you. Sometimes I would pause before saying it, aware of what it meant to let it leave my lips. Your name felt like a confession, a truth spoken without explanation. It revealed more than I was ready to admit, exposing affection, vulnerability, and hope all at once. In speaking it, I felt closer to you, even across distance. Your name followed me into moments you weren't part of, reminding me of your presence in my life. It echoed in my thoughts, steady and persistent, shaping the way I remembered you. It became a symbol of everything unspoken, everything felt but never fully expressed. There is a quiet power in a name when love gives it meaning, when it becomes more than identity and turns into emotion, memory, and longing, when a single word can hold an entire story, 1,000 feelings, and the trace of a heart that has learned to recognize love through sound alone. There were so many things I never said to you, not because I didn't feel them, but because they felt too fragile to be spoken aloud. Some emotions lose their purity the moment they are explained, and my love for you lived in that delicate space between silence and truth. I carried confessions in my heart that never reached my voice, afraid that words might make them real in ways I wasn't ready to face. Instead of speaking, I let my silence do the talking. In the pauses between conversations, in the way my eyes lingered a second longer than they should have, in the way your presence shifted my attention away from everything else. Every unspoken word found a place to exist, even without sound. Love learned how to communicate through restraint, through what remained unsaid. I often rehearsed these confessions in my mind, imagining how they might sound if I ever allowed them to escape. But when the moment arrived, my voice failed me. Not from uncertainty, but from depth. Some truths feel too heavy for language, too meaningful to risk being misunderstood. So I let them stay where they were safest, within me. You probably never noticed how many emotions lived behind simple gestures. A small smile carried gratitude. A quiet nod held reassurance. Even distance became a form of expression, a way to protect what I felt when closeness threatened to reveal too much. Every interaction became layered with meaning, rich with things I couldn't bring myself to say. There is a certain honesty in unspoken confessions. They are not shaped by expectation or influenced by response. They exist purely as feeling. My love for you remained untouched by explanations, free from definitions, alive in its rawest form. It didn't need validation, it only needed space to breathe. Sometimes I wondered if you could sense it, if you felt the weight of everything I was holding back. Love has a way of traveling beyond words, of reaching places sound cannot. Perhaps my silence spoke louder than any declaration ever could, carrying sincerity that language often fails to hold. In those unspoken moments, I learned that love does not always demand to be heard, that sometimes the deepest confessions are the ones whispered only to the heart, where they remain unchanged, unchallenged, and endlessly true. Some names do not fade with time. They remain, steady and familiar, long after moments pass and circumstances change. Your name became one of those names for me, one that settled into permanence without ever asking permission. It carried a sense of forever, not because it promised certainty, but because it refused to disappear from my heart. Even as days moved forward, your name stayed behind in the quiet corners of my thoughts. It resurfaced in unexpected moments, uninvited yet welcome. A familiar place, a certain time of day, a memory that arrived without warning, and suddenly your name was there again, unchanged, untouched by distance or silence. It reminded me that some connections are not measured by presence alone. Your name became a companion to my memories. It attached itself to emotions I didn't want to let go of, to feelings that had shaped me. Every time I remembered who I was during those moments, your name appeared beside that version of myself. It held the past gently, without trying to rewrite it or soften its truth. I realized that forever does not always mean staying. Sometimes it means leaving something behind that cannot be erased. Your name lived on in the way I loved, in the way I learned to care deeply and without conditions. It became part of my emotional language, a reference point for everything that followed. Every love after you would carry a trace of what your name had taught me. There was comfort in knowing that even if everything else changed, your name would remain familiar. It did not demand attention, yet it never lost its significance. It rested quietly in my heart, like a story I didn't need to retell for it to remain real. I carried your name forward not as a burden, but as a reminder of how deeply I once felt, of how open my heart had been, of how love had shaped me in ways I would never regret. It became proof that something meaningful had existed, something worth remembering. Forever, I learned, is not always about holding on, but about allowing a name to live on within you, unchanged by time, distance, or endings. Continuing to echo softly every time the heart remembers what it once chose to feel.